Let's rope in some reaction now. Joining us for more is National Industrial Policy Officer for the Southern African Clothing and Textile Workers Union, Etienne Vlok. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. What improvements would you say have come with the industry finally bearing some fruit? What's influenced the change?
Good evening, Paul. Thank you very much for having us. I think the major thing that has happened is that we've been able to build partnership. We've sat around a table as the different players within the industry, trade unions, manufacturers, retailers, and government. We've identified the problems, and we've brought solutions to these problems. We've brought innovative ways of thinking, and we've brought trust and partnership to this, and that's allowed us to solve problems that have been around for decades. And so this is one of the major contributions that a master plan brings to a sector. And then one of the significant outcomes of this partnership is that we're seeing about 51% more locally procured units of clothing, textiles, footwear, and leather compared to 5 years ago. And that's a significant jump. And as your report says, it's kind of lays the groundwork for an industry that can grow significantly.
Yeah. You talk about how you've gone through some of the problems that have been around for decades, managed to find some sort of leeway to ensure that you can eradicate those problems. Some of those areas are areas around localization, as well as ensuring that there is jobs, decent work, decent pay. How have you navigated with this master plan? How has it assisted?
So one of the things that we very early on established and got an agreement across the board is that we are not going to be targeting wages. We are not going to say that people have to earn less, and that is the way that we're going to grow the industry. We decided to take a high road. And that high road said that in order to compete, in order to grow, we need to ensure we have skilled workforce, we have responsive companies, and we have supportive retailers. And that's an important outcome of this. Because unlike many other countries that have decided the only way that they're going to compete is by trying to exploit workers, by running sweatshops and so on, we're doing it quite differently. And that's also a significant achievement and has been brought around by partnership. We think that this lays the basis for a workforce which is more productive and ultimately can ensure that we deliver product quickly and cheaply to customers.
How have retailers chosen to absorb the rising raw material costs to maintain some sort of consumer appeal? Because that would in essence translate in lower profit margins.
So we've decided to tackle costs in other ways. One of the problems that's been around for many decades is that certain fabrics are being brought into the country and duties are paid on those fabrics, even though the fabrics are not made locally. And it was a very difficult thing to try and unravel that, to try and deal with the entrenched positions of different stakeholders and find a way to come up with a solution. We did that, and what it means is that retailers are paying less for the fabrics that are coming in, and ultimately the garments that are being manufactured are then cheaper. Similarly, we're focusing on things like skilling. So we're saying that if we are able to have more productive workers, better engineered factories, more knowledgeable managers, then that's the way that we can tackle costs. And that's the way that we can then ensure that the margins that are still there are acceptable to the different stakeholders.
What about issues around and challenges around quality control, ensuring that you do produce the kind of quality that is required to compete with global developing trends so that the consumer remains committed to that local brand for whatever reasons?
We have a history of quality production for many decades in centers like KwaZulu-Natal, the Western Cape, areas of the northeastern Free State. Eastern Cape as well. There's been a tradition of clothing manufacturing, especially, and in areas of KwaZulu-Natal, tradition of footwear manufacturing. And much of this has been built on quality manufacture. So that's something that we've been doing well as an industry for many years, and it's important that we maintain that. And that's, of course, how we can compete with the likes of Shein and Temu, who are bringing in goods that are perhaps extremely cheap, but the quality of it is extremely poor at the same time, which means that those goods are not going to last. And that's the kind of value offering that we can often put to local consumers.
Are they a threat to local consumers? Because besides the bad quality, they have competitive prices and attractive offers like free shipping. Is that a threat?
It's a real threat, Mpho. It threatens not only the retailers with whom they compete, it threatens the manufacturing industry in South Africa, it threatens our members' jobs who work in those factories. And it also threatens the tax collection of the government. The reason that many of these overseas online platforms are able to deliver their products so cheaply is because they're using loopholes in the current tax regime. And these loopholes were created many years ago before we had these large online retailers. These loopholes mean that they don't pay the same taxes that South African retailers would be paying, that those who are bringing products in a different way to those international online retailers are bringing them in. So one of the agreements that we've made is that we'll focus on this, try and make sure that we close those loopholes and try and level the playing field, that those international online retailers also pay the same taxes that South African businesses have to pay.
We heard Minister Ibrahim Patel talking a little bit about how they are ensuring that they will catch those who are not law-abiding. Are you confident that government is indeed handling this with the urgency and attention it needs?
One of the major successes that we've seen in the past 5 years is the work of SARS, of the Customs Authority. We have a long history in South Africa of garments being brought into the country, but then either being undervalued, being smuggled, being transshipped, and all of those are intended to avoid paying import duties and paying VAT. And what that did was undermine local industry, because it meant that those products would come in much cheaper than what they should have. And over the past 5 years especially, SARS have been doing really well. They've used a whole lot of tools to make sure that they target those imports, to make sure that those import prices actually reflect the fair prices and the prices for which they were bought. So we are confident that there's action. We've lauded SARS for the work that they've done, but we still feel that more can be done. There's still significant under-invoicing, significant cheating of the tax system. And if we can sort that out, once again, we're creating space for local manufacturing, for local jobs, and a more prosperous economy.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time and weighing in on this discussion. That was National Industrial Policy Officer for the Southern Africa Clothing and Textile Workers Union, Etienne Vlok, talking to us about some of the strides that have been made within the industry and, of course, the challenges that remain. We continue, of course, as we talk about a retired director at the International Criminal Court. That conversation